Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. Today we are talking about the 3 stages of spiritual awakening, what they are, why they matter, and how they can transform your life. This is going to be very good, very important information, and we're going to get started right away. But as always, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my work and want to help me reach more people with this information, become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. If you hit the join button right here on YouTube, you can see all the different perks you can get access to with the different tiers. And you can even get access to all of our members only videos. There's a new one every week. And we're having a members only video right after this, and it's going to be really good. We're talking about how to unlock the hidden messages in your dreams, decoding archetypes. So that's going to be a really great discussion. Join, become a member, and you can be a part of that, and it helps out the channel. I appreciate it very much. I also want to remind you that my latest book, Book 4, Teleocracy, Creating the New Earth, that describes how to create a planetary civilization with the understanding that we are an interconnected mind understanding itself and how we can reach the next phase of our collective evolution. This releases next week on October 10th, 1 week from today, October 10th. That's next Thursday, but it is available for pre-order right now. You can pre-order it right now. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's book 4. If you don't know what I'm talking about, start with book 1. This is Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. And this is actually going to be, a lot about the first stage that we are discussing. So anyway, both of those, you can find the links to all my books in the description of this video. Check that out. And in that description, you will also find a link to my Spotify channel. Follow me on Spotify, where you can listen to this and watch this content as podcasts. And it can be very helpful to do it in that format. It can be a good way to do it. But all right, let's get started here. We're talking about the 3 stages of spiritual awakening. And this is important because a lot of people are going through this in a way where people are at different stages and at different degrees. And depending on which stage you're at, it might be a very frightening and lonely experience. You might be wondering too, if you're going crazy or if you're waking up. I had someone in the chat today say like, I don't know if I'm going crazy or if I'm waking up here. Now, of course, if you actually feel like there might be some sort of mental disorder going on, you should talk to a healthcare professional. But in general, this idea of spiritual transformation can occur in a way where it can be kind of frightening if you don't know what's going on. So we're going to be talking about exactly what's going on here, how to understand it, and how it can transform your life. So let's get started right away. That's what we're going to do. We're getting started right away here. And to do this, I am going to be reading a few excerpts from an article written on medium.com. And this article is called The 3 Stages of Awakening and How They Influence Your Life. And it's written by Knowledge Collective. So if you enjoy some of the excerpts that I read from this article, go follow Knowledge Collective on medium.com, where you can read the whole thing and give them a follow and support them and their work. So we're going to be looking at some excerpts to see what they say about this. And I will be giving my view as well, because I have some thoughts when I saw this article. I'm like, okay, well, we could discuss some of these things. Anyway, it starts off by saying, you know that feeling when you're dreaming and suddenly you realize you're in a dream? That moment of, yes, I'm dreaming. That's kind of what happened to me a few years back. So I think we've all had that experience. Well, most of us who have had lucid dreams, is when you are in a dream and you suddenly become lucid, it can be very overwhelming. You think, like they said, oh my God, I'm in a dream. And in fact, one of the problems with lucid dreaming is that the realization that you're dreaming can be so startling that it causes you to wake up. That's one of the problems, is like you become so startled that you wake up. Here's a tip. And I don't know why this works, but here's a tip. This is kind of an aside. It's not really related to what we're talking about, but if you're having a lucid dream and you realize that you're dreaming, or I'm sorry, if you're having a dream and you become lucid and start to realize you're dreaming and you start to wake up, what you need to do is, in your dream, spin around really fast. And it works. I've tried this before. Why exactly it works, I'm not sure. But one theory is that if you spin around real fast, your mind has to take in a lot of dream information. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? You know, you're experiencing everything spin. So you have to focus more on the dream. So it kind of directs your consciousness back to the dream and keeping that dream world and dream pattern stable. And so it sort of stabilizes you in your dream when you do that. Anyway, I've tried it. It actually does work. Interesting. But anyway, I digress. The idea here is that when you start to have a spiritual awakening, in reality, it's very similar to becoming lucid in a dream. This is a sort of lucid dreaming. It's lucid awakening. There's a lot of different reasons for this. One reason is because this reality that we're in is literally a dream. It's just not your dream. It's our dream. That's why it is stable and persistent. Your personal dream is very erratic. It's constantly changing based on your emotions and your thoughts and your unconscious. It's all over the place. This dream is not. It's very stable, and its changes are very slow, like evolutionary processes. This is because it's not just your dream, it's our dream. So every mind or soul in existence is contributing their frequency components to the structure of this dream. So your emotions don't dictate how this world behaves. It's all of our thoughts together that contributes to the structure of this dream, this domain, which is why it's stable, which is why it's persistent. So when you begin to realize that you are so much more than just a body, and you start to have that spiritual awakening or raising of consciousness, it's very much like becoming lucid in a dream. Now, it may not happen all at once. For some people, it might be. I know some people who they have some sort of experience where it's like, whoa, holy shit. They have this light bulb moment and everything is different. For others, it might be a gradual process. For me personally, it's a little bit of both. I think, there'll be moments where I'll have, a light bulb moment, followed by a more slow evolutionary progression, followed by, intermittent light bulb moment. So what I mean is, if you're not one of those people who it just comes as a flash, don't worry, that's fine. Everyone comes to this in a different way. For some people, it might be slow progression. For some people, it might be instant. For others, it might be a combination of the two, etc. So that's important to understand. So like I said, we're going to be talking about these 3 stages of spiritual awakening. But what I want to lay out first of all is why this matters. Because some people might be, a question I often get is, all right, that's all well and good, but how does this affect me in my life? What's the difference? How does having higher consciousness in a real tangible sense help my life? Or is it just like interesting philosophy to contemplate? Well, it completely changes everything because you're shifting into a new consciousness, which means you're shifting into a new perspective, and it utterly changes everything. And the issue is that, for those who haven't reached a higher consciousness, I can't tell you exactly what it is like. You have to get there yourself. I'm sure that there's many people watching this who have gotten there, and that's awesome. But let me give you an analogy. Let me give you a metaphor of why this is important and how it can transform your life. The reason why is because think about when you're dreaming. When you're dreaming, you're going along with whatever is happening in the dream. Like, let's say you're on a quest to defeat a dragon and find treasure. In the dream, you're just going at the dragon, trying to get the treasure. That's your main motivation. But when you become lucid, everything changes. You realize that you're dreaming, and you can do something. You can realize, oh, wow, this is just a dream. I don't have to be trying to defeat this dragon and find this treasure. I can go off and do something else completely different. So think about this, because some people might think, okay, well, when I become lucid in this world, I can't change things just by thinking about it. So what's the deal? What's the point? Well, think about it. If you become lucid in a regular dream, even if you don't, physically change the dream through your thoughts, your perspective of being lucid gives you other options. It changes your perspective. Like I said, you say, oh, I don't have to be fighting this dragon. I don't have to be trying to get this treasure. I can go do this other stuff. You didn't necessarily change anything, through the force of your mind. You just made a decision that deviated from the dream pattern. So likewise, when you begin to wake up in this reality, you don't suddenly gain the ability to, levitate objects or anything like that. Shoot fireballs. No, that you can't do that. Would be nice if you could, but you can't. But what you gain the ability to do is to shift the narrative and deviate from the pattern that has been laid out before you. Just like in the dream, you might be, trying to conquer the dragon and get the gold. In this reality, you might be trying to get a certain job to make a certain amount of money, to get this car that you really want, or, whatever it may be. Nothing wrong with making money. Nothing wrong with getting a car. Nothing wrong with those things. But you can see so many people are on predetermined patterns. It's like cookie cutter lives. It's like copy and paste. It's like a manufactured existence where everyone is leading the same life, the same pattern. And if one honestly really wants to live that kind of life, there is nothing wrong with that. But the difference is that you have the choice to realize, oh, I don't have to be engaged with all of these activities. I realize that there's so much more to life, and I can focus my attentions, focus my will, focus my power, focus my goals elsewhere. And that is about being truly in control of your mind, rather than being controlled by someone else or society or culture or institutions that work behind the scenes programming you. And so when we talk about the first stage of spiritual awakening, the first stage of a spiritual awakening is a deconstruction phase. A deconstruction phase means throwing out all of the beliefs, all of the programming, all of the conditioning that has been instilled in you since birth, ever since you were born. As soon as you came out of the womb, immediately, you have people telling you what to do, how to behave, how to live. Of course, as a baby, you need this structure. But as you get older and older and older, your parents, school, television, social media, culture, apps, they're all programming your very impressionable mind and categorizing everything from your likes and dislikes to what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what are goals that you should achieve, what are goals that you shouldn't achieve, etc. And so it's not to say that all of these things are wrong. Some of them might be correct, but you are not in charge of your own life. You are being programmed and manufactured by external influences. So the first part in waking up is a deconstruction process where you get rid of all of the forces and beliefs and systems that have made you into something that you're not, so that you can take control of your own mind and be the creator of yourself. Now, this article that I mentioned here describes it a little bit different. So let me read to you what they say. They say stage one is expansion, the what the F is happening phase. And this is how they describe it. They say you're going about your day, your same old routine, when bam, something shifts. Maybe you're watching a sunset, or maybe you're stuck in traffic. It doesn't matter. Suddenly you feel different, more alive, more connected to everything around you. This is the expansion stage. It's exciting, it's confusing, and it's just the beginning. So this can be a stage where something occurs to shift your consciousness, to shift your perception of reality, that opens you up to the possibility that everything you might know or everything you think you know is wrong. And so they describe it as this light bulb moment, kind of. But I would say that this then leads to the necessity of going through that destruction phase, going through that deconstruction phase. Because if you don't, you're going to have all of your old beliefs contaminate any new beliefs that you have, because stage 2 is a reconstruction phase. So first you deconstruct, then you reconstruct. Now, let me describe real quick what this article says, because they describe it a little bit differently and they're combining it a little bit different. But they describe stage 2 as being the understanding phase, or the, oh, that's what's going on phase. And they say after the initial shock wears off, you become a human question mark. Why did this happen? What does it mean? Is it normal, or am I going crazy? Your old understanding of reality just got shattered, and you need to put the pieces back together. So it says suddenly you're the person with a stack of self-help books on their nightstand. Meditation apps become your new best friend. You also learn more about higher consciousness, the present moment, awareness, dimensions. You start using words like vibration and manifestation. Your friends think you've joined a cult. Slowly, things start making sense. You begin to understand your awakening wasn't random. It was part of a deeper journey into yourself and the nature of reality. One day, you might feel like you're on the verge of cracking the code of the universe, and on another, you might think you're going crazy. But slowly, things start coming together. You learn new concepts, and you start understanding yourself in the world. Okay? So they're kind of describing it. They're kind of describe stage 1 as light bulb moment. Oh, wow, my old view of reality is shattered. And stage 2 is being, okay, now that my old view is shattered, I need to understand what is going on here. And that is you beginning to put the pieces together to figure out what's going on. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think, that's more or less right. I'd be a little more detailed about this though. Like I said, stage 1 should be there. So if you want to reach the highest stages of consciousness, you have to be very proactive about it and put in the work. I know a lot of people don't like that. Oh, work. No. But if you want to reach higher, it takes a lot of work. So it's not so much about just wandering around. All of a sudden you have a light bulb moment. Oh man, everything I thought I knew is different. And then you just start understanding stuff. I mean, it can happen that way. But what you have to be proactive about it. What I mean by that is in stage 1, where you have that light bulb moment that, oh wow, everything is different. You need to take the steps to deconstruct all of your old belief systems. And that's what my first book is about, by the way. Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. Neogenesis means new beginning. It's about deconstructing all your old mindsets, all your old paradigms, all your old reality tunnels, all your old cultural conditionings, so that you can be free to construct your new self. That's what that's about. So the reason why this is so important is because if you don't do this, what's step 2? Step 2 is basically what they describe as understanding what's happening. I would describe it as a reconstruction phase. The reason why it's important to proactively go through that deconstruction first is because if you don't, when you go through that reconstruction, you're going to have your old beliefs contaminate your new understandings. They won't accurately reflect reality. They will contain, it's like programming code that contains errors from an outdated program. So it's kind of like this. If you think of your old mind or your old thought system as a house, before you build the new house, you have to get rid of the old structure. You don't want to start trying to build a new house on a flawed, faulty structure, or else your new house is going to be all rickety. So that's what's really, and this is where most people trip up here, is they don't do these steps. And so their new way of viewing reality is very skewed. And this is where you get people starting to believe in some like real crazy ideas because they haven't gone through the necessary process here. So in a nutshell, stage 1, you realize everything is not what it seems. And what one should do here is go through that process of deconstruction. Phase 2 is now reconstruction, where you begin to build a new model of reality, because your old model you realize is false and is wrong, and you have deconstructed it. Now you need to build a new model of reality. Now, a couple things to say here. First of all, that in between these two phases, or at any time really, but it often starts in between these two phases, can occur what's known as the dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul can be very difficult. And that is that very frightening experience of, holy shit, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know what existence is. I don't know what bodies are. I don't know what objects are. I can't really relate to anyone because everyone's, worried about what shows on Netflix tonight. Meanwhile, we live in a, mathematical fractal that's self-transforming. What the hell? And, you feel like you're going crazy and you might think that you are, etc. And this can cause you to isolate and withdraw because you can't really relate to others. You start to isolate, you withdraw, and you can feel very lonely and very isolated. So just be aware that this dark night of the soul can occur. Usually it begins, like I said, in between phase 1 and phase 2, because it's when you have deconstructed your old system, but you haven't constructed a new system yet. So when you're in a very confused state, and it can be very disconcerting. But know that hey, you're not alone. A lot of us says, now always remember, if you feel that there is actually some mental disorder going on, please absolutely see a mental healthcare professional. None of this is medical advice, but I'm just saying this feeling is not uncommon. I went through it. Many of us go through it, and some people it lasts longer than others, etc. But anyway, so first phase, deconstruction. Second phase, reconstruction. Dark night of the soul can occur at this moment. Now, reconstruction is very important. You don't want to get this part wrong. And this is where most people get it wrong. They get it wrong for multiple number of reasons. One reason they get it wrong is because they haven't gone through the deconstruction phase. So old beliefs, biases, prejudices, conditioned ways of thinking will contaminate the new structure or model of reality they're trying to build, and will ultimately limit their consciousness because it's on that rickety structure. That's one mistake some people make. Another mistake that some people make is that they're just trying to find something, right? So you've gotten rid of your old way of understanding reality, and now you're like, holy shit, what's existence? And so people just jump to something like, oh, I'm just going to go to join this new age group, or I'm going to join this pagan group, or this occult system, or whatever. And these systems may be better than your previous system, but a lot of these systems are themselves have limitations and biases, etc. And you just don't want to. You're just like trading one for another. You might have traded up, but you want to go to the highest levels. And if you want to go to the highest levels, you need to be very careful that you construct your system on something firm. And by the way, again, in my first book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind, that's exactly what it discusses, is how to logically and rationally understand what you need to be sure that you are building a powerful structure of reality that's not contaminated by crazy beliefs, because there are so many crazy beliefs out there when it comes to these spiritual systems. Why? Because people aren't using logic and reason. They're usually only using intuition. Intuition is great. It's extremely powerful. And we absolutely promote and use intuition. But if you just use intuition without logic and reason, it can drive you to some really mad, crazy, insane territory. Because intuition, trusting only your intuition, is like trusting in a dream. And we're doing a video on dream analysis, by the way, after this. But it's like trusting in a dream. What the problem is that dreams can give you great information, but they're highly symbolic. If you take a dream to be literally true, you could potentially get into a lot of problems if it's trying to communicate something symbolic to you. So people can start believing all these wild conspiracy theories and crazy ideas that have no basis in reality. So you want to make sure that as you are structuring your new system, you are doing so with logic and reason in a very specific way so that you know how you can filter out the bullshit. Remember, I grew up a Christian. I'm an ex-Christian now. So my whole life has been devoted to detecting bullshit. And so you want to make sure, and everyone out there, is most of, I will not say everyone, but most of the systems out there have bullshit in them one way or another. And you want to be able to figure out what that is and make sure that it doesn't contaminate your new way of viewing reality, so that you can make sure that you are the one in control of your own mind. So this is a really critical, and this is why I wanted to talk about this today, because, I see articles like this. It's like, ooh, the three steps to awakening. And this is, we still need to talk about the third one. And, this is more or less right, but you have to make sure that you do so in a way where you're truly growing. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you're 5-year-old or 4 years old. You don't know much about existence. You don't know anything. You're just a little kid running around. Now, when you go to school, you begin to have as you go to school and go through different, years of study, you begin to have a very intricate understanding of existence, language, mathematics, and science, etc. Now, one thing that I have to say is that today's school systems suck. They're based on the Prussian model school system, which is designed to churn out factory drones, workers, consumers, and soldiers. That's it. So our school systems suck. So this isn't the greatest example, but try to imagine a good school system where you're learning philosophy and art and language and mathematics, and you're able to explore your world and understand things in environments that are conducive to your personality type. Like, imagine that. Now imagine another kid that doesn't go to school and just has to learn by wandering around and hoping they come across stuff that sounds good to them. Well, clearly the one who went to that very enlightened school, that very progressive and forward-thinking school where they had they're going to be able to understand reality much better than someone who didn't and just learned by wandering around randomly. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is what's happening in today when people are having an awakening, instead of going through this powerful process of truly understanding what they are, where they are, and why they are here, they're just kind of wandering around like, oh, what sounds good to me? What's this person saying? Oh, what does this app say? Oh, I watched, this thing and this sounds good. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds good to me. And it's not like you're not going to learn things. You are, but it's like the difference between the child who went to that very, spiritually enlightened school versus one who was just wandering around listening to whatever anyone had to say. Maybe they'll run into someone who tells them some good stuff. Maybe they'll run into someone who tells them some real shitty stuff. But unless you have that understanding, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So that's what's really important here, is that one goes through these processes. Like, you have to go through that deconstruction phase. You have to have a foundation of logic and reason. You have to reconstruct based on these principles of reason, so that you know that you're having a lucid view of reality, and so that you're not getting taken in by all the bullshit out there. So this is step 3. They say is integration. The time to walk the talk phase. And they say now comes the real test. You've had the experience, you've gained the knowledge, but can you live it? You start integrating your newfound awareness into your daily life. You catch yourself reacting in old ways and consciously choose a different response. You begin living from a place of higher awareness, not just thinking about it. So again, yes, I would agree that this is first you deconstruct, then you reconstruct, and then you start to apply this to your life in a very powerful and proactive way. But once again, one should do it in a way, this is just kind of like, oh, well, you start integrating this newfound awareness. So for example, in a book that I have coming out, it's not out yet. It'll be out in sometime in November. It's my 5th book called Psychogenesis. And in Psychogenesis, there are different aspects of it. And this book is all about how to transform yourself and your life and your consciousness so we're phase 1 is deconstruction. Phase 2 is reconstruction, which is basically like, phase 1 is deconstructing all your old beliefs. Phase 2 is understanding reality in a new way. Phase 3 is applying that to your life, to your actions, to your world. And so, for example, instead of just sort of like a vague, like, oh, you have a newfound awareness, you live it, you start to choose new patterns. No, there are very intricate steps you can take. Like, for example, in our system of interstar actualization, what does this actually entail? For example, it entails making the unconscious conscious, exploring the various archetypes deep within your mind. Specifically, we work with the major archetypes of the shadow self, the mirror self, and the power self, integrating them into your mind so that you can activate your higher self, the inner star, so that you become a powerful force of transformation in your life. And then you can also apply the principles of will forming, which is about applying your will to make the changes you want to happen occur in your reality, in existence, and ultimately help us create a new world collectively and together. So it's about phase 3 is about applying this, actually using this information, not just knowing it like you would memorize facts in school or collect trading cards. You want to actually apply this information so that you can have a better life, you can create a better life, and we can create a better world. And so when it comes to this particular step, it is absolutely the time to walk the talk phase. That's right, I agree. But like everything else, we have to remember there are some very deep processes to engage in if we want to reach the highest levels possible. So basically it comes down to this, like how far do you want to go on your journey? If you just want to take a couple steps, that's fine. If that's all you want to do, if that's what makes you happy, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to go as far as possible, if you want to truly understand what you are, where you are, why you are here, if you truly want to have meaning and purpose in your life in a way where you can actualize yourself and transform the world and transform your life, then it entails doing things the right way. It's like if you want to be a famous musician, you better take a lot of classes on how to play the guitar. Or if you want to be a singer, you better take singing. You better practice your ass off every day if you want to be a famous musician. And this applies to whatever you might want to do. Likewise, if you want to understand reality, it's difficult. So this is why these, 3 stages to transformation or spiritual awakening aren't the 3 simple steps or the 3 easy steps. They're not. They're hard. They're difficult if you want to do it the right way, but they are infinitely rewarding and extremely powerful when you are able to actually apply these to your life in a way that's changing you and ultimately our world together. So the main thing to understand here is that, and another thing that I want to mention too is, I've described it in 3 steps, but ultimately, and I think they say that, so in the article, this individual says that these stages aren't a one-time thing, they're a cycle. That's exactly right. They're not a one-time thing, they are a cycle. So even though I've laid it out like, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3, you're going to be constantly going through various stages of transformation. You're going to realize, oh, wow, I thought I deconstructed certain things before, but I didn't. I have more things to deconstruct. Oh, I thought I learned everything there was to know about this particular thing. No, there isn't. I need to do this. Oh, wow, I thought that I, had integrated this aspect of my shadow self, but I really didn't. I need to. So it's a constant cycle, a constant transformation, a constant evolution, a constant alchemical process of the mind, of the soul. So, main thing I want to say, this is extremely rewarding, very powerful, and you have the power to do it. Don't feel discouraged. Don't feel like, oh, this is too hard. No, you absolutely have the power to do it. And don't be hard on yourself either. You have the power, and it can take a very long time, and that's totally fine. There's no need to, I see some people like trying to rush it or whatever. Take your time. It's fine to go slow. It's time to go at a pace that you are comfortable at. And that's why it's great to have a community here where you can talk to other people who are going through that as well. And on that note, I want to know what phase you're in. If you feel like you're in one of these phases, tell me in the comments. Are you in the first phase where, oh, wow, everything is just completely different than you thought, and you're trying to let go of old beliefs and old ways of seeing the world? Are you in phase 2, where you are beginning to understand and construct a new way of seeing reality? Or are you on phase 3, where you are integrating what your knowledge into actionable steps to transform yourself and transform your world and transform your life? Or are you currently in a combination of them? Let me know in the comments. I'm very, very curious. Tell me. But I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. We're having a members only video all about dreams, where we're going to be talking about how to unlock the hidden messages in your dreams and decoding archetypes. That's going to be really good. If you want to be a part of that, you can just become a member here on YouTube at tier 2 or higher, the Pathfinder tier. Hit the join button below. Or you can become a member on Patreon. Oh yeah, and remember, check out Neogenesis. If this stuff interests you, that's what my whole book series is about, this kind of stuff. So Neogenesis is book 1, which is all about the deconstruction process and the process of laying that foundation so that you can be ready for the reconstruction process, which is in my second book, Meta-Rationalism. And each book is about an important aspect of leveling up your consciousness to reach hyper-awareness. Anyway, links in the description. Follow me on Spotify. I appreciate it, my friends. You guys are great. Check out my other videos. And a big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, DB, Nusalina, Christopher, Eon, Vanessa, and Dallas. Thank you very much.